Hello everybody! My name is Kat and I love books. I hope you're here because you also love books because I'm going to talk about them. So I included 5 different ones, but I did include series as their own entries. So I don't know if you guys are like this, but when I read a series, generally they all just smush together in my mind. I don't remember which one is which, so that's why I decided to do that. So my number 5 for this year was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the prequel to The Hunger Games, and I read The Hunger Games back when I was in middle school, and I liked them. But this one, I feel like, was so much better. I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed Lucy Gray, and it was cool to get to hear Snow's inner thoughts, because I feel like it really helps you understand him in the later books. So I watched the movie first. I will preface with that. I watched the movie first, and I really liked the movie, and so I wanted to read the book to maybe get more details, which I did. So I recommend it if you really liked the movie and you hadn't read the book yet. But I will say I liked the end of the games in the movie. I feel like it was much more wrapped up, more, I don't know, it felt more like a resolution than in the book. But I really enjoyed both, so I'm not complaining. The next series that I really liked this year was the Rainwild Chronicles. So there's 4 books in the series, and I actually ended up getting the first one from a thrift store for like $2. If you haven't done that yet, go to the thrift store, get some cheap books. They're usually great still. They're just a little used. But it was really good, and when I went to the thrift store, what I was wanting to look for was a dragon fix. I was really into dragons. I think I had just finished Iron Flame. Wait. The second one of Fourth Wing. So I just really wanted dragons, something dragon. And so I found this one. It had dragon on the cover, said dragon in the title, so I said, that one is the one. And it was actually really good. It wasn't what I was expecting going into it. Basically, what happens is there's one dragon left, and she's trying to get these serpents, which is like the pre-evolution of a dragon. She's trying to get these serpents to cocoon to become into dragons. But it turns out you need more than one dragon to cocoon these serpents, and they all kind of come out a little wacky looking, and it's basically the story of how they live, what happens to them. It's really good. I really liked it. And again, I cannot tell you which book was the best one out of the series. I really enjoyed the first one, so I read the second one, and I really enjoyed that one, so I read the third one. I don't know. They were all really good. One thing I will say about this series that I've never experienced before. I was reading it, and I would come to a place where I was like, I really want this guy to die, or I really want this guy to just like get shipped off to a different continent so we don't have to deal with this anymore. And every time I thought that, it happened. It was amazing. And so just for that, I got a lot of points. Because I feel like it's frustrating sometimes when things happen and you're like, this could all be solved if this guy died right now. Anyway, that one was really good. The third book on my list is The Phantom Prince. And this was written by Ted Bundy's long-term girlfriend. And she just talks about their life together and, you know, how she found out that he was actually murdering these girls. And it was, I feel like it was an eye-opener for me because they just lived a normal life. It really could happen to any of us. And she even had a daughter, a very young daughter, who had some experiences with Ted Bundy. They talk about it at the end of the book, and she writes her own little chapter. And it was just crazy to read. I can't even imagine. The other thing that really caught my eye about this book was how honest she was. It was to a point where, like, it was painful. Like, I don't know if I could be that honest talking about my flaws, and it was just really hard to read at times because it's clear that she was not doing well during this time. And yeah, it was a very toxic relationship and very eye-opening. I really liked it. For my number 2 book, I read Warbreaker. Oh my gosh. I really recommend it, especially for the romance. I really like the romance. And Brandon Sanderson is known for not really focusing on romance, which is kind of frustrating for me as a romance lover. But he wrote a really good romance in this book. But it wasn't just that. There was lots of fantasy elements. There was just lots of different things going on. Lots of political things, which you can see in Stormlight Archive too, if you read that one. I read this as an audiobook and on my way to work. And I really recommend it. It was really good. So it's about two princesses, and one of them was promised to another kingdom, but the king is basically known for being brutal, and so one of the princesses goes and meets him, and the other princess goes to try and retrieve her back to save her. And that's basically what I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil it, but it was really good. It wasn't too long compared to his other books. It was pretty long, but I really recommend it. I really liked it. So for my number one book this year, I would have to choose The Stolen Heir duology. I know it's a series, but I'm going to count both of them because they're both really good. If you read The Cruel Prince, know that the character, you don't really see the same characters. So if you want more Jude, you're not going to get more Jude. But she does appear, but that's not the main focus. But the main focus, I loved it so much. It was so good. It's basically about this girl who's kind of been mistreated her whole life, and so she's kind of a little monster, a little fiend, and she's a little scary looking, but then she befriends Oak, which is Jude's younger brother, and they go on an adventure together. And it's really quite good. I really enjoyed it. It was very fast paced, but that wasn't a bad thing. It felt very in line with the fairy, like the trickster mindset. It felt like you have to really pay attention to what's happening and to see what's actually happening behind the scenes. I also wanted to talk about one honorable mention. It was a reread for me. I've read it every year, but it's my favorite book. I had to include it. It's called Brook. It's a romance set in, I think, like the 1800s, so it's like a proper romance, kind of like Pride and Prejudice, but it's much more teasy. Like they're teasing each other. It's very cute, very bantery. Kind of reminds me, I've been watching The Office, kind of reminds me of Jim and Pam. So if you like The Office, I would recommend it. It's really good, and I wanted to include it because it's my favorite book of all time, and of course I reread it this year. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you read any of these books this year. See you in the next one. Bye!